I'm a filmmaker, and why do I do what I do? It's always been a tough question, and if you indulge me, I'm going to try and take a shot at that question now. So there are very few certainties, and that's good. That's good to start with. So one of the certainties is we're all going to die. But if Kurzweil and some others have their way, some of us won't, and that's going to take a while. So even if they are, most of us are going to die. Here's what sucks more, that there was never a plan, that life is not teleological, it did not evolve with a predetermined purpose. Matter boiled over the simmering pot of the planet over billions of years, struck by lightning and UV radiation, going through godzillion reactions accumulated over a long, long period of time leading to us. There is no meaning beyond that. All purpose has to be invented. Now, here's my problem. I've been able to articulate it a little bit through a character in my film. The monk Maitreya in my film says at one point, I guess we agree in reason, and now it's a matter of disposition. So I agree completely with the nihilists and causal determinists. But my emotional makeup is that of a romantic, so what can I do about it? So I thought I could put myself at the service of one of many of life's aspirations, and that is a proliferation of choices, an expansion of scope of what's possible for an organism to do. And it's ideas, metaphors, memes, and memeplexes that shape our choices profoundly. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sweep of determinism, what memes may come. When I was making my film Ship of Theseus, I kept asking, if the parts are guided by laws of determinism and causality, how can the whole exhibit any freedom? It's of some significance that these parts can be seen as wholes that have further parts that do not follow laws of determinism and causality and actually guided by laws of quantum probability. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If the parts seem to be guided by laws of determinism and causality, how can the whole exhibit freedom? How can the whole be greater than the sum of its parts? And we know we empirically experience choice. We experience dilemma and conflict and emotion and intuition and the relief of making a choice if and when we do. So is it an illusion then? The whole being greater than the sum of its parts? And the answer seems simple. There is a sum of all the parts, and then there is the sum of all the interactions and the relationships between the parts. And then there is a sum of all the interactions and the relationships that the parts of the unit have with its environment. And the whole is made up of all these parts. So if there are a few hundred parts, that the whole can be a few billion times larger than the parts. And when the parts stop interacting with each other, the sum stays and the whole vanishes. And that is a dead parrot. Now the human being is made up of trillions of cells. And there are about 10 times more bacteria in our body than there are human cells. So you think you're a monolithic entity, but you are an ecosystem. So let's take a whole, 100 trillionth the size of the human body, a bacterium, 100 the diameter of human hair, swimming smoothly in a few drops of water in its environment. Now let's introduce a drop of acid in its environment. On coming in contact with a single molecule of this acid, the bacterium will tumble around and speed away from the acid. Now let's logically break down what has happened in this simple if-then mechanism. Let's look at the steps. There has been a stimulation, contact, perception, reference to memory. So there is perception and there is in this case a genetic memory of a few chemicals, and there is a reference to it, tuck, 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 and bing, aha. There is recall, recognition. And the recall and recognition takes the if-then program further, leading to a recall of response, and hence towards response, which in this case is to flee. So now we are looking at a simple if-then program that itself would have taken billions of generations to evolve, and this understandably has happened completely through physical, causal, unconscious processes. What I can't help but suggest is a way of looking here, that biology causes a substance interference in physical laws by pitching them against each other. This is what I mean by that statement. If a microbody that was a chemical equivalent of the bacterium were to come in contact with the molecule of the acid, it would not be repelled by it. It would be engulfed by the substance. without resistance. So I'm rephrasing choice as the possibility of resistance in the bacterium, as the possibility of tumbling, the possibility for the bacterium not to be engulfed by the fatal substance in the environment, and the possibility for the bacterium, for example, also to make copies of itself, to replicate itself. The laws that led to this simple if-then decision-making systems are deterministic, but a choice is created by the very existence of this decision-making system. Now, as life evolves, one more step gets introduced into this entire process, and that is learning, storage. Storage of new data acquired during the lifetime of the organism. This introduces a new variable in the equation and makes the whole even larger. So memory has evolved to supply useful information to the organism's decision-making processes, so they can change their behavior to better suit their environment. But memory itself is a metaphor. It's a snapshot of reality. An intricate system of these snapshots acquired over a lifetime provide new updated information to life's decision-making agencies. And because the environment is often changing more exponentially and faster than the biological information that is being genetically inherited, this new information acquired during the lifetime of the organism often comes in contradiction with the genetically inherited information, causing the classical heart versus mind problem, the intuition versus reason problem. The vast magnitude of variables cause conflicts, contradictions, dilemmas. But one thing is clear: as life evolves, memory systems and their interlinking co-evolve, helping the organism have more and more choices. To better understand the nature of information density in memories and memes, let's take the famous case study done by the Nobel ethologist Tinbergen. Within an hour of emerging from its shell, a herring-gulled chick immediately recognizes the mother's beak because of its yellow color, its thin elongation, and a red dot on it. Now, Tinbergen presented the yellow chick, the herring-gulled chick, with a disembodied beak. He found it lying around. So he presented the chick with the disembodied beak of the mother, or of the adult gull, and the chick still pecked at the beak, expecting food, because it's only when the chick pecks at the beak that the mother feeds the chick. Now he pushed it further. He took a stick and put 3 red dots on it, and presented the stick to chicks, to herring-gull chicks, and they still pecked at it with complete passion. So Tinbergen identified a few visual cues: elongation of the object, the contrast between the base color and the dot on it, so even if it was not red, it would still be recognized, and the color red itself of the dot. And now he made a stick with 3 red dots on it, put 3 white lines below it to increase the contrast between the base color and the dots, and presented it to herring-gull chicks, and this time they went completely insane. They pecked at every side of the stick insanely. Dumb chicks, eh? But doesn't that remind us of some of our obsessive behaviors, the way we respond to sugar and oil in our foods, to sex and violence in our cinema, or it'll be appropriate to say to sugar and food in our junk food, and sex and violence in our junk cinema, and the promise of immortality in our junk religions. There is clearly an evolutionary function of maximizing content density in small units. The information of the entire organism comes from the genome. Information is resource expensive, it's resource intensive. And biological technology precedes digital in this optimization, in maximizing the experiences and inferences and information and data that can be packed into smaller and smaller units. Metaphors, science, memes have a strange relationship with the natural environment and the natural universe they represent. So how precise, how succinct can a metaphor be? As a filmmaker, I constantly struggle with this question. How much information can be packed into one unit of culture? A major recurrent aspiration of all intellectual endeavor, and one of the many common aspirations at that, of all arts and sciences, is the maximization of content density per unit. A piece of literature is considered great when a huge amount of experience, a huge amount of emotional experience and worldview can be packed into a few passages. Science constantly evolves towards content maximization and content density. E is equal to mc square. There is coding of codes, there's distillation, replication, variation, mutation of codes, and there is coding of codes of codes. Lifetime of experiences and inferences can be packaged into capsule-sized units of culture, highly condensed, easily transported, and generations have to learn only the decoding systems, and that's how the educational systems evolve, around learning the decoding systems of generations and generations of packaged cultural units. And if the decoding systems are not learned, the highly condensed culture that is condensed into these small units would be lost. There'll be no translation left anymore. So, metaphors and memes are extremely powerful and they constantly shape our choices. And one of the most thriving memes of known history is the idea of transcendence: God, soul, heaven, afterlife, even martyrdom. The idea that somehow this consciousness, along with all its memories, experiences, will survive the physical death of the body is one of the most potent metaphors that has survived for generations now. And we find ourselves pecking at this shtick with the insane obsession of the herring gull chick. If there are a trillion parts in the equation, a trillion variables, then and there are near infinite permutations and interactions, a vast scope of possibility, of evitability that can be decided for and against, all evolved out of causal deterministic laws, yes, but they emerge and they are very real choices. So we can rephrase cogito ergo sum to I think, I choose, and therefore I choose. The I that did not choose to be here just happened to have arose from a really competitive sperm born into situations not chosen either, but the scope of choice expands, for some of us at least, and can be expanded for everyone if we understand the significance of the choice narrative. That's what we do when we travel, when we learn, when we eat, make love, hoard up, give up, read stories, watch films, sign into social contracts, choose philosophical or political affiliations. We protect and expand the choices. So I choose, or rather the cumulative choice-making, decision-making agency that is me, chooses to work in the field of memory, simulation, and most importantly, meme creation. And that is why I make films. Thank you for indulging me. Thank you.